Good afternoon. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I know Saturday afternoon not the easiest of the schedules to manage, but thank you for your attendance and support. Getting into the presentation on Q3 results straight away without much ado. The usual disclaimer on forward-looking statements in the course of the presentation. We will, as usual, divide the presentation into three sections. We will talk about the performance highlights, top-level takeaways, the results in some detail, and the segment performance. Starting with the performance highlights, I think it's been an eventful quarter, to say the least. Very mixed. We've done pretty well on cost management and profits, profitability position of the company, but not been coping up adequately with the headwinds that are blowing in terms of execution, as well as the environment for order wins have also been pretty challenging. They continue to be challenging. So numerically, the revenues for the quarter has grown by 1%. EBITDA has moved up by 19%, profit after tax by 39%, and the orders that we have won in Q3 is down by 10% in comparison to the order wins in Q3 of the previous year. For 9 months, things look tad better because we had a reasonably satisfactory H1 for the year. Revenues are up by 6%, EBITDA is up by 14%, profit after tax by 59%, and order inflows by about 3%. So, looking at order inflow, place to start our usual analysis. We have won orders worth 34,900 crores during Q3, 349 billion rupees. That's a degrowth of about 10% as compared to 387 billion rupees of Q3 of the previous year. But when we take it consolidated for the 297 billion and 311 billion worth of orders that we have won during Q1 and Q2 of the current year, the aggregate order inflow for the 9-month period stands at 957 billion rupees, which is up 3%. I think it is important to reflect on the order inflow position of the company in the context of the environment that we are dealing with. As you all know, we are very investment-led in our business. The investment climate continues to be very challenging. We have private sector capex still shy of getting into the marketplace. Public sector capex is jostling for space between developmental programs and the productivity improvement programs that they need to do. The government's outlay on large programs continue to be elusive because the programs are announced with considerable delay, and post-announcement we do find the award timelines extending. So, given this background, I think the company has done well to be at the 957 billion rupees that we find ourselves in the 9-month period. With about a month of the current quarter behind us and 2 months left for the Q4, there's a fair bit of jostling of mind space of the government between political developments and economic agenda. So, it's possibly fair in our assessment to expect that we would end the year with about 10% growth as compared to the 15% growth that we were targeting at the beginning of the year. Looking at the composition, and there lies the tail, we have domestic orders for the 9-month period at 632 billion rupees, pretty much the same as compared to the 9-month period of the previous year. So there has been no incremental delta in terms of orders from the domestic markets. We've done well to stay afloat and stay at the same level as we found ourselves in the last year. But fortunately, there's been an increase of 10% in terms of order inflow from the international markets. So consequently, we have been able to win about 325 billion rupees of orders in the international market, largely in the Middle East. And that takes the percentage of international wins to total order wins to about 34%, up from the 32% of the previous year. Consequently, the order book stays at 2,58,000 crores, very much the same levels as in the previous year. Obviously, with a flattish order win rate during the current year, the order book is not expected to behave any differently. But I must hasten to add that 2,58,000 crores is a significant order book that the company has in an environment which is very investment challenged. And we do think that they provide visibility of over 2 years of revenue going forward. Where did the order come from? Infrastructure accounted for 55% of the orders. Hydrocarbon contributed in this 9-month period with a 12% share. And the services have grown well to contribute to about 17%. And the services include the financial services, the information technology, and the technology and engineering services. The order book of 2,58,000 crores has close to 75% from the infrastructure sector, and that's where the fortunes of the company lie in terms of future revenues and profitability. Ability to execute this book to schedule and to cost will be very important for the company going forward. Hydrocarbon, thanks to the recent wins, have added up to 204 billion rupees, 20,000 crores, and power is at about 15,700 crores. The rest account for the balance of the order book. Looking at the revenues and the costs of the company from the operations, for quarter 3 of the current year, the company earned revenue of 262 billion rupees, up by 1% as compared to 259 of quarter 3 of the previous year. However, for the 9-month period, the revenues from operations are at 731 billion rupees, up 6% as compared to 691 of the previous year. The growth of 6% from revenue for the 9-month period is reflecting the 15% growth that we have achieved in the international revenues, which goes to say possibly the revenues from the domestic operations have remained flat. The share of international revenue to total revenue of the company stands at 36%, whether you take it from a quarterly perspective or a 9-month perspective. The initiatives that the company has been taking in managing its costs, productivity, and other operational excellence processes better is beginning to reflect in terms of the costs in the manufacturing, construction, and operating space. We find for the quarter 3, the manufacturing, construction, and operating expenditures at 172 billion rupees is 2% lower than the corresponding quarter's numbers. And for the 9-month period, they are at 474 billion rupees, up 5%, lower than the 6% growth in the revenues. The finance cost of the financial services business are up by 10% for quarter 3 and 11% for 9-month period. But they are par for the course when we compare to 15% growth in revenues that the financial services business has achieved. The staff costs are at 34.97 billion rupees for quarter 3, which is 2% higher than the 34.17 billion of the previous year. And for the 9-month period, they are at 103 billion rupees, up 5%. I must say that the productivity initiatives that the company has been taking has begun to reflect in some of the costs, and if we are able to persist with these initiatives, we should be able to have staff costs at more desirable levels than what they have been in the past couple of years. Sales administration expenses at 16.52 billion rupees are up 4% for the quarter 3 and up 8% for the 9-month period. The increase in sales administration expenses are largely arising out of the provisioning that the financial services business have made for their non-performing assets. It's important to note, and you must have heard this in their individual commentary, that it has been both business and accounting prudence to provide for the non-performing assets in their books much ahead of the regulatory requirements. The total operating expenditure for the company hence at 237 billion rupees for quarter 3 is on par with 238 billion rupees that we incurred in quarter 3 of the previous year. And for the 9-month period, they are up 5% at 664 billion rupees. Staying with the financial summary, the EBITDA of the company at 25 billion rupees for quarter 3 is up 19%, and at 67 billion rupees for the 9-month period is up 14%. Consequently, the EBITDA margins have improved by 140 basis points in quarter 3 from 8.2% to 9.6%, and the margins for the 9-month has moved up by 70 basis points from 8.5% to 9.2%. The company has done well to contain its interest cost expenses, and they at 3.79 billion rupees is down 6% for quarter 3, and at 10.43 billion rupees is down by 14% for the 9-month period. The depreciation at 7.2 3.22 billion rupees for quarter 3 is significantly higher than 3.68 of the previous quarter, largely on account of the impairment that we had to do in the value of the asset that we monetized in Seawood, which is part of the realty business. The depreciation for the 9 months at 16.47 billion rupees is up 21%, but the impairment is one-off and is not expected to feature in the charts in the further quarters. Other income is up at 7% at 2.57 billion rupees, largely arising out of treasury operations, and for the 9-month period at 10.29 billion rupees, up 22%. Importantly, the profit after tax, but before exceptional items, for the quarter at 9.72 billion rupees is up 39%, and for the 9-month period is up 41% at 26.14 billion rupees. These largely represent the turnaround that we have achieved in businesses which weren't doing well in the previous year, and also the improvement in the operating margins. We've had in the earlier part of the current year sale of insurance business, general insurance business, which created an exceptional gain of 4.02 billion rupees, and that continues into the 9-month period. We had no such transactions to report for quarter 3. Consequently, the consolidated profit after tax for the company at 9.72 billion rupees for quarter 3 is up 39%, and for the 9 months at 30.17 billion rupees is up by 59%. Looking at the various segments that we have and the individual performances of those segments in brief, infrastructure segment, which is the largest segment that we operate in, the revenues at 124.54 billion rupees for quarter 3 is up 6%, and for the 9-month period at 328 billion rupees is up by 7%. Virtually, the growth achieved by this segment reflects the growth of the company's top line overall. We have had international revenues growing by 18% for the infrastructure segment for quarter 3, and likewise 18% for the 9-month period. These are largely on account of progress that we are achieving on the international jobs that are under execution in several areas of infrastructure, namely transportation infrastructure, water, power development and distribution, etc. The EBITDA margins on the back of better execution has improved from 7.2% to 8.3%, and for the 9-month period is lower at 8.2% at 20 basis points. We have often said on this forum that quarterly margins are not indicative of the yearly margins of the company, because the segment does have a very cyclical flow to its cost and revenues. The power segment revenues are down 23% at 16.33 billion rupees for quarter 3 and up 13% at 51 billion rupees. It's important to keep in the back of our minds that the sector has not been going through easiest of times. There has been excess capacity. For the limited opportunities that we have, there are intense competition. Considering that the company chooses to bid for projects which are profitable and which are capable of being executed within time, we have lost a couple of projects that were targeted during the year, and we do look forward to winning 1 or 2 more projects as the year comes to a close. There has been considerable delay in the award of some of these projects. Consequently, the opportunity for us to scale up the revenue has not yet presented itself during the current year. But we do believe by the time the execution on projects underway are completed by the end of the year, we should be able to report a better revenue position as compared to what you see for quarter 3. The margins of this business, hence, in correlation to the revenue, are lower at Q3 at 1.5% and lower at 3.5% for the 9-month period. Hydrocarbon segment has turned around during the current year, and we have spoken about the making of this turnaround in the past few quarters. The revenues have grown by 14% at 23.98 billion rupees for quarter 3 and by 15% for the 9-month period at 70 billion rupees. The business continues to be largely dependent on international order flows and execution. So bulk of the revenues do come from international business, and it is important that those revenues are growing as well. There is a 61% growth in international revenues in hydrocarbon business for the quarter 3 and 31% for the 9-month period. On the back of improved volumes, the EBITDA margins have increased from 1.5% to 7.8% for the quarter 3 and 1.7% to 5.8% for the 9-month period. This is also reflective of the fact that much of the legacy jobs which were suffering cost overrun are closed out, and we've been able to move on from the legacy projects. And going forward, I think the execution skill on the current order book would reflect the revenue growth and the profitability growth of this segment. Heavy engineering segment has two elements to it. One is the process plants and nuclear business, and the other is the defense business. The process plant and nuclear business has not really revived after the oil price decline. Even though there has been a recent uptick in oil, the international orders are still few and far between. Consequently, the revenues from process plant business is very subdued. The defense business continues to await orders, and these are, in terms of skill and competency, company is well positioned, but the policy making has to favor private sector manufacturing. And if that were to happen in good time, and we've been waiting for these good tidings for quite some time, almost 3 quarters in the current year, we do believe that heavy engineering will turn around, very much like hydrocarbon did. But the fact of the matter is, as far as the quarter 3 is concerned, revenues at 7.78 billion rupees is down 8%, and for the 9-month period is up 6% at 21.75 billion rupees. The share of international revenues, as you can see, is declining, largely on the back of limited hydrocarbon order wins. The EBITDA margin, however, has improved from 1.5% to 20.3% for the quarter, and from -0.3% to 16.7% for the 9 months. This is largely on account of the low margins that we reported in the previous year due to accounting of costs and time overrun that were embedded in the statements of the previous year. Now that those legacy jobs are behind us, we find that the current jobs are being executed to satisfaction. Consequently, the margins are looking much healthier. Electrical automation business is suffering from lack of industrial demand generally. So we find both at the industry level and at the company level, the top line are very flat. At 11.94 billion rupees, the top line of the electrical and automation business is up 1%, and for the 9-month period is down by 2% at 31.92 billion rupees. The share of international revenues are also declining both for quarter 3 and quarter 9, largely because of the shortage of adequate number of orders in the international markets for the type of switch gears that we market. The EBITDA margins, however, has improved from 11.1 to 15.7 for the quarter, and 10.6 to 13.2, and these are largely on account of several operational efficiencies that the business has undertaken. As is often seen, it is only during tough times we begin to dig deep, and this business has started looking at various elements of its operations and cost, and hence has been able to combine that with the introduction of products which are more remunerative and improve the margins. When it comes to technology services and IT business, these are presented combined even though they are two independent entities. Being listed entities, you would have had an opportunity to look at them independently. But when we consolidate and combine them into a segment of IT and TS, we have a revenue growth of 9% rupee terms for the quarter at 24.54 billion rupees and 11% for the 9-month period at 72.47 billion rupees. Much of their revenues are anyway international, and the growth of the international revenues are quite closely mirroring the growth of the total segment. The EBITDA margins for the quarter had stepped down from 22.1 to 21.5, but for the 9-month period has stepped up from 20.2 to 21.5. In the recent quarter, we have invested in improving the delivery bandwidth of both information technology and technology services, and making some investments in the next generation technologies. Consequently, we have, the investment that we have made is reflected in the marginal decline in the margins of the IDPS segment. Development project business is a combination of several businesses. We have power development business there, we have a Kattupalli port there, we have Hyderabad metro project, and also the roads and transmission lines conducted through the IDPL, which is subsidiary. The profits consolidation under Ind AS provides for IDPL to be consolidated only at PAT level. So the revenues that you see in the segment are excluding the roads and transmission line revenues. They do represent the power development, Nabha power plant, the port, Kattupalli port, and Hyderabad metro. Hyderabad metro, as you know, is under construction, so the revenues are rather reflective of the delta on construction progress that we achieved. The port is in the process of being divested, so the impact on revenue is very marginal. Whereas power development is significant because much of the revenue in this segment is contributed by Nabha Power. During the Q3, we had over 33 days of shutdown of Nabha Power plant due to maintenance and overall reasons. Consequently, the revenue for the power plant is lower in Q3, and that is reflected in the revenue of development projects at 9 billion, being 39% lower than the 14 billion of the previous year. For the 9-month period, it is down 14% at 30 billion as compared to 34 billion. The EBITDA margins decline are from 5.4 to 4.6 for the 9-month period. It is also reflective of the lower value and under recoveries of overheads. Financial services business have announced their results a week ago, and they have done well. The numbers that you see are on the basis of Ind AS, because the consolidation needs to be done on the basis of Ind AS, the new accounting standard. Whereas financial services sector has been given an exemption from following Ind AS, and they are still following the earlier accounting standards, IGAP. For a year more they would do that. So consequently, the numbers that they have reported have been adjusted to the Ind AS adjustments. And we have a revenue growth at 21 billion rupees at 12% in Q3 and at 14% at 63.38 billion rupees. EBITDA margin, though represented here, is not reflective of the financial health because the business depends on leveraging, and hence there is a big chunk of expenses that stay under the interest column. But suffice to say, the profit after tax of the business for the 9-month period has grown by 23% on the back of the 15% revenue growth. It is also heartening to note that the business is focused on improving the ROE, and from 9.2%, the current ROE for the 9-month period ending December 31st, 2016 is 12.81. The final segment, which is a combination of minerals, metals, material handling, realty, your shipyard, as well as construction and mining equipment business, all of them combined together does reflect the weak industrial demand as well as the low capacity utilization. MMH business, the minerals material handling business, is just beginning to turn around. I think the first signs of pickup in the material prices is beginning to seep through in some of the capex opportunities, and we do expect as the quarters roll by, we should be able to get much better business out of the investments that we made in minerals and metals segment. We do not yet see the pickup in construction and mining equipment and as well as realty projects. Realty projects in particular, post the demonetization, have taken a bit of a sentiment hit. The consumers, I think, do believe that there is a lot of correction in the offing on the realty prices. Consequently, many of them are reportedly deferring their investment decisions. The shipyard, which has been created essentially to serve the defense requirements of the country, is still awaiting the policy nod and dispensation from the government. And until such time, these opportunities, where L&T is pre-qualified and well placed, are placed with the private sector, we are going to continue to see shipyard not recovering its overheads and hence continuing to be in the red. With this, I complete the presentation, and we can open the forum for questions and answers. Thank you for your attention.
So, Shantinaman, given the way the order inflows have panned out in the 9 months, it will be an uphill task for you to achieve the guidance. I mean, are we revisiting the guidance given the circumstances?
I thought I mentioned that. I said that looking at the situation where we are today, and considering 1 month of the current quarter is also behind us, and considering the preoccupation of the government in multiple things, it does look likely that as against the 15% that we were targeting at the beginning of the year over the previous year's orders inflow, we could land up around 10%, and we are at about 6% at the 9-month level in terms of growth. Q4, as you know, has been always a large quarter. Lot of pending orders the government does place out on Q4 to exhaust their budgets. So we do expect Q4 of the current year to be no different. Factoring that surge in Q4, we do think that we will possibly reach about 10% growth.
10% in order inflow as well as revenue?
Yeah, that's right.
So also,
Though the explanation that I mentioned was more for order inflow.
so you had earlier guided for 12 to 15%.
That's right. That's
So
right.
now you expect a 10% growth.
That's right. I think looking at the execution challenges on the ground, I don't expect substantial improvement in the next couple of months for these headwinds to go away. And actually, it's worthwhile to understand what these are. There are 2-3 aspects to it. See, we've got the orders in our book, so there is no difficulty in trying to cite orders to execute. They are there. One is, I think, the right of way, land acquisition, clearances, etc., are still not resolved issues. As we get into the project, we still deal with those, and these actually come out largely in infrastructure sector. If we talk about power transmission, distribution, water, roads, if you take all these sectors, all these aspects of land acquisition, clearances, right of way, utility shifting continue to be a challenge. They're not as automatic as the government and we want it to be. The second aspect is around the liquidity in the system. Much of the infrastructure sector has been financed by government. Commercial banks have had a big role to play. Given the overhang of NPAs, they're far more cautious in trying to financially close. So while there's a lot of liquidity, it's almost like the situation of water everywhere, not a drop to drink. The projects that are under execution does labor a bit before they organize their finances. And the third aspect to it is some of the clients, because of the demand scenario, are pacing the execution of the projects to suit their ends. Consequently, we need to react and respond to that scenario. So we can't have an unwilling customer, be thrust with project completed faster than what he is preparing himself for. And the fourth aspect is, even if all of these go by, there's something called clearances of work done. The certification, whether it is done by technical agency or lender's engineer or even by the client himself, the cycle time for certification and payment has become longer. Now, all of this combined together to affect the progress on the job. If we are going to be completely blind to the balance sheet health, you could go ahead and achieve the sales target even today. But I think out of prudence and in balance, we have to straddle between the financial health of the company as represented by the balance sheet and as represented by P&L. So in balance, we have taken a call, and this over the course of this year, we have done that and spoken about it, that we would rather go ahead and complete jobs which are in better state of readiness than complete jobs and get stuck for money and working capital.
Well, then, this quarter, although your order inflow and sales growth has been equal, your margins have been better. So by the end of FY17, where do you see margin?
We had guided for 50 basis points increase, and we are standing by that guidance. Last year, just to put some numbers to it, last year we, excluding the services business, other businesses added up to 9.5% margin adjusted for Ind AS. And we guided that we could close the year at about 10%. We are at 9.4% at 9-month level. We do think we will reach 10% by the end of the year.
Sir, how much would demonetization contribute to the revision in your targets for revenue and also the 1%, the muted growth that we've seen in revenue for December quarter?
See, the jury is still out. It's very difficult to precisely quantify what happened on demonetization and how it has influenced client behavior. But there are certain businesses which have a straight impact. For example, the toll roads that we operate. We had 23 days of no collection. And the impact of that is about 100 crores just on toll road. Reality, the residential bookings have slowed down considerably. Now, how much of that is on account of demonetization, how much of that is on account of an opportunistic assessment of price correction, we don't know yet. But then the fact is that has slowed down. We run over 600 sites, and the enormous number of workers who work through subcontractors, etc. So something which comes on us quite suddenly, unannounced, needs some adjusting time. So we would have lost maybe 2-3 weeks in trying to organize ourselves into a different situation, and that must be having some effect on the productivity and the progress as well. It's very hard to pinpoint and say consequently so much, which is why I gave a long-winded answer to that revenue, that there are 4-5 levers which are in operation, and the dynamics of all of that combined is what creates the headwind on revenues.
And are you expecting a lag effect in the March quarter as well? Of
Which effect?
A lag effect of demonetization to continue in the March quarter?
See, when I made an assessment saying that maybe 10% revenue growth we would have by the end of the year, it factors in all these. So there's not any specific percentage point I have allocated to demonetization, but considering we are at a 6% growth at 9-month level, considering that we have a large fourth quarter traditionally, if you look at last year or year before, 35% of our revenues came in Q4. If I were to extrapolate that, I see my 6% becoming 10% by its own momentum. The whole point is when we guided for 12 to 15, we expected some improvement over that. That improvement doesn't seem to be existing, so we are coming back to the base.
So even if I were to look at your readjusted order expectation, order inflow targets, we're still sitting at something about 44,000 crores. Which pockets of infrastructure or the segments that you operate today offer you that kind of visibility, sir?
Of revenue?
Of order inflows?
I think, but for the building space, especially residential or to some extent commercial, all the other spaces in the infrastructure do show visibility of orders. Even as of date, we are sitting on about roughly between around 25 to 30,000 crores of L1 orders. Point is, some of it could have come in Q3, some of it has gone into Q4, and maybe some of it will slip by. But there is visibility. The transportation side, especially railways, has got visibility. Roads is seeing visibility again. There was a lull in Q2, late Q2, Q3, but again is seeing visibility. Our heavy civil, which is into nuclear, metros, have seen good visibility, and there are still visibilities as we see forward. Water space, our wet business sees good possibilities. Power transmission distribution definitely sees good possibilities, and since you asked about infrastructure and specifying on that. So in all the spaces, but for buildings, we do see good possibilities. And therefore, we remain, I use the word cautiously optimistic, that some of these things should go through in Q4, even if they are not gone through in Q3. And in Q4, there are still 70 odd days, so we are still bidding, and there's possibility that a fair amount of these could get settled. Some of this will slip into Q4, and that's why maybe there is some amount of cautious feeling on whether we'd achieve whatever we thought about, maybe slightly less, but that's okay. It may come in Q1 next year, but the other way to look at it is we have a fairly good backlog at about 250, 255 odd, and the infrastructure alone has got about 194. So that's about 2.5 years of backlog. And the constant battle that I have within the organization also is to justify why it's not moving faster. It's also a fact that some of these orders are larger value orders, 1,500 crores, 2,500 crores, 3,000 crores. So they have a life of about 2.5, 3 years. That's also a fact. And looking at our revenue, this is about a 2-year backlog that we have. So it's a fairly good basket of proposition to have in front. There is a battle ahead, but we look forward to it in a smiling manner, let me say.
Are you reviewing your order book position? Are you removing any slow-moving orders from the list? You usually do it in the December.
We normally do it at the end of the year, and we would maybe do that to some, but it's not a very major number. Most of the orders are moving. See, some of the road jobs, especially in the transportation side, it's a good thing that the government is doing. That we also do is that to take the notice to proceed only when a substantial part of the right of way is through. Otherwise, what happens? You tend to mobilize, and then you're moving bit by bit, which is not good from productivity point of view or earnings point of view. So, a couple of road jobs that we have sort of not moving because we still not got what we presume should be 80 or 85% of the right of ways. There's no point in getting into it because we do have right of ways, but then these are 1 kilometers, 2 kilometers, and it stops. We need to have 6-7 kilometers to have a good speed of work. So such little issues are there, but the non-moving orders are not a disproportionate amount to get to spend too much time about. There is the usual 2 to 3% which is there, and which we will be sort of putting it out at the end of the year, because some of these projects, especially on the real estate side, due to the promoters not moving ahead with the project, or they don't have sufficient funding, or due to certain local clearances, this Green Act, etc., I think some of these projects are not going to move, and therefore there's no point in carrying it on the books. And when it comes back after some time, we'll take it back. And some of it may have to be renegotiated because these were settled a year and a half back. Same rates would not be valid, the same commercial conditions would not be valid. There's no point in doing it at that price. In a correct manner, I suppose it's better to get it away and get it back when these and the client's relationship is good, and therefore we can get back into it whenever they get all the permits and clearances.
So you said you made some provisioning for NPAs of the financial officers business. How much is the NPA?
See, actually, to be fair, you should ask financial services, but just to give you a statistic, about 3% is their net NPA levels, and they've been able to make provisions to stay at around 3%. Yeah.
What's your working capital situation right now?
Good. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. I forgot to give a good news. See, it was about 23% when we started the year. It's about 21% now. We have pulled back 2%, and if you see the filings that we have made and the investor presentation that will get uploaded in the site, it will become even more apparent that we have made considerable progress in reducing the working capital. And this is what I was earlier mentioning, that it was easier to have achieved the sales had we not been mindful of the working capital. And consequently, the focus of the company is to revive the ROE of the enterprise. So consequently, this is a very important lever to operate on.
If you could quantify it in days of
No, we quantify it as percentage because days would be very misleading. It's such a potpourri of businesses. You can't have a single metric in days, because what is number of days sales for project business is different from manufacturing, different from services, and within project is different from different sectors. So I would strongly recommend that we look at it as a measure of percentage of sales, and that is so long as you consistently measure that, and that is shrinking, should be indicative any other way also if you look at, but I don't have that quantification ready.
So when you talk about ROE revision, are you sticking to the 5-year target that you had earlier laid up from 10 to 18%?
Yeah, I think so. I think 5 years is a long distance, right? We're trying to break it up into smaller tasks. So at the moment we are trying to operate the most obvious lever, which is improve the capacity utilization, improve productivity, and increase the capital efficiency. If you do that through working capital management, I think a couple of percentage points in ROE you will gain. Then we'll have to look at the next lot that we need to do. There are several investments that we have made in businesses which are not yielding the desired results. So the next level of focus should be to make them more productive than what they are, or divest. So if you release capital again. So it's going to be an ongoing journey, but yeah, we're going by that strategic direction. Yeah.
So what has been the traffic scenario on the roads you mentioned? 2,300 crore hit on the toll collections, but you could give us some sense of the traffic on how it's moved there.
Surprisingly, when we were not collecting tolls, the traffic shot up. Okay,
That's not surprising at all.
so when you normalize it, I think there is a 7% growth in the traffic for the 9-month period, and I'm still hopeful, and if you can help that cause, we'll be delighted. Government has promised revenue reimbursement. Please do talk about it and tell us how badly we require. No.
But some of the contractors have received it, at least that's what they claim they do.
I can speak for myself. I'm waiting every day and I have not got it
So
still today.
not even on the O&M side, because
No.
the reference was
Right. I think what the government started doing was reimbursing the O&M. We received about 20 crores. As compared to 100 crores, what we were citing 20 crores, it's not even registering in my mind. But then they quickly announced that they're going to reimburse the total revenue, and whatever was coming through O&M also stopped. So I don't know.
it's O&M.
Yeah.
So you received 20 crore as
That's right. 1/5 of what we ought to receive. So that's the operating line.
What the attrition last quarter, sir? How many people?
Everybody? No, I don't have the number per quarter, but there is no exceptional attrition in the quarter. I don't have the number.
On the backdrop of 15,000 people going the last quarter.
No, I think you should forget that because there was a lot of chatter around this. Many of that was not well understood. So I would like to go past that. To your specific question, I think there is nothing that in terms of attrition during the quarter bothered us.
Anyway, net of net, we have added people. So look at it in a positive manner. We are a growing company, we are a healthy company, we are adding people.
So could you just tell us broadly how does your international business look like now?
Which part of the business?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll broadly break it up into two parts. I'm not talking about the IT companies because they're listed, so you have the results to see. One is the infrastructure part, second is the oil and gas part, the hydrocarbon part. Hydrocarbon, as you know, is predominantly, to a large extent, international business. And we see pickup in orders, especially in Saudi Arabia and to a certain extent in Kuwait. This is because maybe seeing the oil prices stabilize at 55-60, and having discovered fields or fields expansion or certain oil rigs, etc., coming for refurbishment, renewals, etc., I think the activities are going on. And we have been able to win some decent orders, including the one from Aramco. And the scenario overall looks fairly positive there. On the infrastructure side, it's been a mixed bag. There are fairly good activities happening in Kuwait, but we have still not been able to break through in Kuwait. We are doing some jobs on the power transmission distribution side, but on the transportation or on the building side, we have not been able to make any breakthroughs in Kuwait so far, though we have done some bidding. Oman continues to be lukewarm, though we have won a major order there. But overall scenario in Oman, I think it's sort of steady, nothing much to talk about. And it will continue to be steady. It's a decent economy, fairly well developed. Some new areas they're opening up in terms of roads and water supplies, etc. So some developments will take place, but it will be steady. Qatar was going very well for us. As you are all aware, we have a fairly good backlog there. So that backlog is running well. There's pressure to push projects, to complete projects, because all this is geared towards the FIFA 2020 games. So whether it's the road projects, whether it's the electrical substation projects, cabling projects, whether it's the stadium, Al Rayyan, all of them are a lot of pressure to perform, deliver, to keep up to times, etc. But in terms of new projects, but for power transmission distribution, because of the games and resultant infrastructure for electrical distribution and power, I think that will go on. But in terms of other new projects, I think Qatar will go a bit slow now. We're seeing it, and maybe there'll be an odd tender here or there, but we don't see anything big there. Saudi Arabia also, because of the economic situation there, from the point of view that they have a commitment on the various issues that are going on, both on the north and south of Saudi Arabia, the Yemen and Syria side, plus the huge developmental activities which have already started in Saudi Arabia. They are being a little more cautious on big spends, and therefore new infrastructure or big developmental projects will go slow for some time. We did, as you know, we did expect more metros and such other projects to come up beyond Riyadh and other cities. So all that will go a bit slow, and maybe it will take a year or two to revive that. So overall scenario, Oman steady, Saudi for hydrocarbon fairly good, for infrastructure lukewarm, Qatar sort of lukewarm, Kuwait is positive, but we are not being able to make breakthroughs, and that's the general scenario in Middle East.
Sir, what are your expectations from the budget?
Our budget?
Yeah. I think there are expectations this time around because it's a midway through the government. Maybe I'm stealing your thunder, but I'll try my best. For example, I think the demonet having gone through, there are in many opinions there are positive vibes about it, and some opinions there are negative vibes about it. I'm not an expert in economics, but we broadly feel it has been a good step. But the fact remains that cash has been removed out of the system, and certain amount of hardship had been gone through by the economy and by people concerned. And therefore, to offset that, I'm sure there would be certain reliefs on the broad side of maybe taxation or few other matters relating to the personal aspects of citizens. There is an expectation on social spend, and I think with this huge commitment towards BharatNet, Aadhaar, Janadan accounts, and the direct to cash payment, government will definitely do something about social spending in terms of maybe whatever be it, like we can't define it, but certain amount of social spending will definitely come into the budget. I also have a feeling to boost trade, to boost Make in India campaign. There would be incentives given towards certain specific sectors of the economy like telecom, like maybe defense manufacturing, maybe certain other aspects of manufacturing like automobile engineering, etc. This has to come through because the Make in India campaign does not see an extra boost from that point of view. Telecom, and especially saying because after a long time, certain telecom manufacturers have shown interest in putting up facilities in India, and one way to create the ecosystem and build more on it, to give some incentives or certain special tax benefits to them, otherwise these will not happen considering where we are. I also feel that certain aspects of infrastructure will get a boost because being the third year and one and a half more years of what is to come in terms of real activity. You have announced a lot of schemes like Sagarmala, border roads, the Namami Ganga, the Atal schemes, the APDRP schemes, the dedicated freight corridors and such. And therefore, to take these schemes forward to their logical conclusion, there has to be budgetary allocation towards it, including the high-speed rail corridor and maybe other dedicated freight corridors between Mumbai and Chennai and Delhi and Calcutta and all that. So some amount of broad policy directions and effect would be there towards it. Otherwise, things don't move in these directions. So all in all, in my view, coming from where I am, maybe I'm being a little overtly optimistic in this. I believe this budget has to be setting a sense of direction, has to give that good feel, and has to give that feeling that infrastructure spend and social spend are balanced. Last budget was a little more agriculture oriented. This budget, therefore, I feel will be a little more industry and social oriented. And if it goes through, it's good for an organization like us. Shankar, you want to add?
No, I think you covered it extensively. I only think that the government needs to be mindful of the fact that large programs would require large funding, and they are not going to be discovered overnight within our fiscal situation. So they must eschew any temptation to do something dramatic on the stock markets. Just as there was a belief cash is black, it shouldn't mean that stock markets is speculation. Stock market is largely investment, and there is speculation, but largely investment driven. So I do hope that the government spends some time in making sure that the enablers for all the programs that Mr. Subramaniam spoke about is found within the confines of the budget. And the solution is not to increase the borrowing, because we are also talking about prudent fiscal deficit, and the financing cannot go out of control. And the other aspect to it is, generally budgets are good intents, statement of intents. Where they fall short is in implementation, and I think there is some accountability as a follow through to these budget announcements, whatever they be, on implementing. That's going to be a key turning point. And this tax administration has to clean up. It's not a budget topic, but as a broader topic, if budget is going to seek larger revenue flows from tax collection, this should be through friendly measures, business enabling measures, rather than coercive or threatening measures. So I hope that the government gets the route to fiscal improvement right.
Right, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.